Going on, Dodger fans, and maybe there's some MLB general fans joining us as well. We're doing a special show today on the Incline Dodgers podcast. MLB Trade Deadline live countdown. There is exactly 1 hour left until the MLB Trade Deadline here, 2 o'clock Pacific time, Tuesday, July 30th. Kevin Klein speaking. I am joined by Jake Reiner, as always. And Jake, we do have a little bit of not breaking news, but John Heyman news here on our show. John Heyman says Dodgers were another team in the end for Tanner Scott.
Yeah, we knew that. We just didn't get him.
We came up short. How you doing, Jake?
I'm frustrated. I think I'm frustrated, but my frustrations could go away within the next hour if something happens, something good happens. But as far as the trade deadline goes for the Dodgers so far, it's been a whole lot of just okay. Like, it's been a whole lot of just, I hope this works. You know, Tommy Edman hasn't played a game this season. So who knows if he's going to be healthy, or even when he does come back, is he going to be good? So that's a big question mark. I know we're talking, we got Amed Rosario back. That's,
yeah.
He's a serviceable, utility infielder that we got at the deadline last year, and he was okay. He's hitting over 300 this year, so that's good. But that doesn't move me at all. And why am I not remembering? Oh, Michael Kopech. I know you love Michael Kopech, but I look at Michael Kopech and I think this guy's never been good. So hopefully when he gets to the Dodgers, he will be better. But there's a whole lot of that. There's a whole lot of hopefully this guy will be good. But who knows, right? I mean, that's just kind of been the trade deadline so far for the Dodgers. Is we don't know. It could be good, could not be. But I think we're still waiting for more reinforcements. And out of the players that we have already acquired, none of them I wanted. Like, none of them were guys that I was looking at, like, on my radar of players that I would love to bring to this team. So I'm still looking for a big fish, like a big starting pitcher, whether that's Crochet. Looks like that's a little complicated at this point. Flaherty is still an option. It looks like the Giants are holding on to Snell, so that doesn't seem like an option anymore. So I'm hoping that there's a big starting pitcher in our future, but not the deadline I was hoping for this Dodgers team, given just the immense holes that they have on this roster.
Like the Jack Johnson song, I'm just sitting, I'm waiting, and I'm wishing. I haven't given up yet, but it has not been the most exciting trade deadline for Dodger fans. I'm with Jake. It's been kind of a snoozer. For the third year in a row, it feels like they found little patches to cover up some bruises and scabs that the Dodgers have amassed, but we have not seen a big impact player come to the Dodgers yet. But we shouldn't lose out on hope just yet. Jack Flaherty is still a big target that's on the board. Garrett Crochet is still on the board. Tarek Skubal is not really on the board, but he is still on the Detroit Tigers and hasn't been traded. The Toronto Blue Jays, maybe they decide to sell Kevin Gausman last second. I don't know. There are still some starting pitchers on the market, and that's what we are holding out for. I did want Tanner Scott. That is an awesome return for the Padres, but they did give up a lot. But we seem to poke fun at the Padres every year. They give up a shit ton of prospects, and then they have more prospects to trade a year later. So it seems like AJ Preller is just the master at replenishing his farm, even though he continues to get fleeced in almost every trade he makes.
I mean, but it doesn't matter, right? I mean, the Padres aren't winning the World Series. The Dodgers aren't winning the World Series. Neither of these teams have won the World Series in the past few years, given the sort of minuscule moves that the Dodgers have made at the trade deadline over the past 3 seasons, and given just the big swings that the that the Padres have taken. It doesn't matter because ultimately these two franchises haven't won a title since the Dodgers won one in 2020. The Padres have never won one. So I don't know if I agree with one approach or the other, or whether it's better to have sort of a happy medium where some seasons you go for it, some seasons you don't, or I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. But what I do know is that the current state of this Dodgers roster is just riddled with question marks. We have no idea what this team is going to look like going down the stretch into October. You've got so many guys that could come back that you don't know if they'll come back, and when they do, what they'll provide. So Mookie Betts, what's he going to provide? We know he's making progress with his hand, but what's he going to be like when he comes back? Is he going to be rusty? Is he going to be terrible in the playoffs again? We don't know. Max Muncy, big mystery. Oblique injury. They said it wasn't that severe. It looks pretty fucking severe right now. So there's that. Yamamoto, is he going to pitch for us? And if he does, is he going to be good? Bobby Miller, is he a lost cause? I mean, I could go down. Tommy Edman we just got. It's just like there's so many different variables that have to go right for this team to make a deep playoff run. And that's why I was so adamant about the Dodgers being way more aggressive during this trade deadline than they have in years past, especially with what they did in the offseason, spending billions of dollars on this roster only for it to be depleted by July 30th. It just seems like they should be a little bit more aggressive, at least leading up to this deadline. But again, it could be the case where we're shitting on them the whole time, and then boom, 3:00 hits, we get Skubal, we get Luis Renifa. I mean, like, we could get all these guys just out of nowhere, and then everybody talking about how shitty a job Andrew Friedman is doing is going to have to swallow their words, including us. So we just have to wait and see. But I am just not impressed with what I've seen so far.
We'll see what happens. We're going to break down the trades in just a second that did happen for the Dodgers. Shout out to anyone here listening right now on the live stream. And if you're in the chat, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, drop a question for us if you have, drop your comments, drop your frustrations. If you're happy, drop your praise. We're an open forum here for the next hour, as we're here to entertain you and see what the Dodgers could pull out of their sleeve before the 3:00 deadline Pacific time. So let's start with the first trade that the Dodgers made yesterday, and that was a 3-team trade. And my first takeaway is that I feel like the Cardinals got the best end of this stick. They got Eric Fetty and Tommy Pham, and they only had to give up Tommy Edman and one, I think, 17-year-old. The Dodgers got Tommy Edman, a utility player who hasn't played at all this season, and there are a lot of question marks. But I know me and Jake have seen Tommy Edman firsthand in the playoffs, and he did get a couple hits off Max Scherzer, so he has shown up at least once in the big moment. But like I said, he's injured. We'll talk more on him in a second. And the other guy that the Dodgers got was from the White Sox, someone that I'm a little higher on than maybe some others out there, Michael Kopech, who throws gas, has had a really rough season with the White Sox, but the underlying numbers suggest that he can be really good. The Dodgers gave up a few prospects that don't really matter in the short term, but the one notable name that they did give up, and no surprise, Miguel Vargas finds a new home for the Chicago White Sox. So Jake, what are your overall thoughts on this trade?
I like Tommy Edman as a player. I think that he is absolutely versatile. He's got a ton of speed. He can play pretty much all over the diamond. Switch hitter, got some pop. He, has, well, not that much pop. I mean, he, over the last, since 2021, he's hit 11 home runs, 13 home runs, and then 13 home runs again last year, over 21, 22, and 23. He doesn't have that great of an on-base percentage overall, 319. Not a big slug guy. He's 408, but he does steal bases. So there is that. He had 30 stolen bases in 21, 32 in 22, and 27 in 23. So he is a valuable player to have, and it's certainly a guy that they can plug in the outfield or the infield. And be a serviceable player. But like you mentioned, he hasn't played at all this season, so we don't really know what we're getting with him. My thing is that if they were going to go out and get an infielder, it almost sounds like that Moneyball thing where in that boardroom scene in the movie Moneyball, where they're talking about how are we going to replace Jason Giambi or Johnny Damon. I can't remember which player, but they're trying to replace a big all-star player. And they come up with 2 players that could, basically equal that one player. That's kind of what we have here in Tommy Edman and Amed Rosario. We could have gone out and got an Isaac Paredes. We could have gone out and got a Randy Arozarena, but it sounds like we're trying to recreate that, going for these smaller moves, which I just don't like that attitude from this big market team like the Dodgers. Now, giving up Miguel Vargas is an interesting thing because now we've seen kind of 2 years in a row where the Dodgers are holding on desperately to Miguel Vargas. They're holding on desperately to Michael Busch, and then they hold on to them too long, and then they don't get a big return for him. It just feels like we just kind of gave him away because there was no pathway for Miguel Vargas to make this major league roster. We've seen him out in the outfield. It's a disaster. They didn't want to play him in the infield. He did hit a little bit better this year, but overall didn't really come through against major league pitching. One could argue he didn't get enough opportunities, which I'll listen to that argument. But the problem is that they waited too long to trade him, and they could have gotten so much more at the height of his value, as opposed to now where it's like we get Tommy Edman, a guy who hasn't played all season, and we don't know what we have. And so it's just weird how we hoard these prospects like we do and don't trade them at the height of their powers, but they have no way of making the roster. It's like Dalton Rushing, right? It's like he's a highly touted catching prospect, but we just signed Will Smith to a big extension. So where's the pathway there? Unless he learns a new position, there's just so many of these guys where I'm just like, well, if they don't have a pathway to the roster, let's get rid of them and turn them into major league talent to fill holes on this team.
I'll argue that they made the right decision initially with Miguel Vargas. They gave him the second base job last season. He was bad. He couldn't handle it. He couldn't hit. He was bad defensively, although it was a new position for him. And then we go into this year, there just really wasn't as much room for Miguel Vargas. But like I said, in 2023, they did give him a shot, and he was the opening day second baseman for the Dodgers, and he just never seemed to really deliver in the spotlight. I do feel like that is a strong case for Michael Busch, where they held on for him too long, and they definitely should have flipped him earlier. But I don't know, maybe Jackson Ferris will turn out to be awesome and will look like fools in a few years.
I really hope that every time I criticize the Dodgers, I hope they prove me wrong in some fashion. I don't mind eating my words when it comes to the Dodgers having success. It is very frustrating to watch this team right now, just with the offseason that they had, and then just the depletion of this roster has just been crushing.
Yeah, I mean, Vargas ended up looking like a circus in the outfield, and then I think he was probably already on his way out the door, but the fact that he didn't hustle on his way to home in that Astros game, that was the nail in the coffin. They were done with him after that. The Dodgers were just dead. Miguel Vargas was dead to the Dodgers, so they shipped him off to the White Sox. I like Michael Kopech, like I said. It'll be interesting to see what his role is in this bullpen. They definitely needed another arm because so many of these dudes are getting overworked, and we've seen it. We haven't talked about Evan Phillips, but that outing against the Astros, that was just utter garbage. And then Alex Vesia is running out of gas. Daniel Hudson blew a hold. So the Dodgers bullpen in this Astros series especially, they were really shaky.
They were. And I think it's because this bullpen is just overworked and overused, because the starting rotation since Yamamoto went down has been atrocious because they keep getting injured. They keep having to run out these rookies. And to their credit, Robleski has done well. River Ryan has done well. Gavin Stone has done well. Landon Knack has done well. But when you're relying, when your entire rotation is made up of rookies and unproven guys, and then you're going and DFAing James Paxton, you're putting yourself in a very, very precarious situation, because you've got to use the bullpen. and you don't have that many high leverage arms, you have to run guys out there like Yohan Ramirez every goddamn game and risk him just blowing the game, which he did on multiple occasions. And you get guys that are older, like Treinen, like Hudson and Phillips, and it's just a recipe for disaster. So I'm glad that they went out and got Kopech because they needed a reliever. I'm glad that Joe Kelly is finally back. Hopefully we can rely on him. But given Kopech's track record, I mean, he was a starter. Now he's a reliever. He hasn't really been that great at either position, other than the fact that he throws hard. So maybe they think the Dodgers can kind of hone in there and find a, sort of a diamond in the rough type of situation. But for me, like I'm done doing that. I don't want to dumpster dive anymore. I want proven major league talent that can play in the postseason, that has a postseason track record. That is my those are my parameters as a fan of what I want to see on this team.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Michael Kopech doesn't have any postseason experience. If he does, it would have been a very small sample size. But I think the Dodgers are going to unlock something in this guy. He has a really high K rate, 31% K rate, very high whiff rate. He can throw up to 102 miles per hour with his fastball. He can generate a lot of strikeouts. One thing that kills him is the walks. So I'm sure the Dodgers will work with him on that. And he's a failed starter. I don't know if the Dodgers get creative in the offseason and give him another shot in the starting rotation. But in the short term, I feel like he's Joe Kelly 2.0. He can be erratically wild, but when he's on, he has electric stuff. Aaron Attic in the chat mentioning a good point that Gavin Stone is starting to give up runs. Ever since he threw that complete game against the White Sox, he's given up almost as many runs as innings pitched over his last 3 games. And I think he needs a breather. What's going on? Rebecca Michelle David. What's up, chat? What's up, MWG? We're just waiting for the Dodgers to make moves. But yeah, that pretty much closes the first trade that the Dodgers made. They get a utility guy who hasn't played all year in Tommy Edman. Hopefully he's not Danny Duffy 2.0. And they get a reliever who I think has some upside.
Bob Nightingale, friend of the show, is saying that the Dodgers are still in on Garrett Crochet and Jack Flaherty. So they continue to be engaged. They're trying to get something done. Hopefully they come away with one of those 2 pitchers.
We'll see. We will see. Next trade that happened for the Dodgers, they did a deja vu. They brought back infielder Amed Rosario from the Tampa Bay Rays. They didn't give up anything to get him, so at the very least, they're getting this guy for free. Ryan Yarbrough was designated for assignment. More thoughts on that in just a second. But, I mean, no one's going to get excited with the thought of Amed Rosario coming back to the Los Angeles Dodgers, but you know that the Dodgers love their platoon players, and effectively he's been really good against left-handed pitching. And for the season, he's got a WRC plus of 115 for the Tampa Bay Rays, hitting 307 with a 331 on base. So at least he looks like a productive hitter.
I mean, he was fairly productive for the Dodgers last season. I think he hit like something like 260 or something, and he did fairly decently against left-handed pitching, was left off the postseason roster though. So he wasn't that impressive. He can play all over the diamond. Although this year I was doing some reading on him. He hasn't really graded high at any one position. So his defense isn't the best in outs above average, but obviously the Dodgers didn't want to ride with just Nick Ahmed, and who knows, if Miguel Rojas is coming back or when he'll come back. So this was sort of an insurance policy. Also with Mookie Betts coming back, I know that they're going to try him again at shortstop, which I think is an absolute abomination. It just makes me so infuriated that we have to use him at shortstop, that we can't get a healthy, serviceable shortstop in there for this team. But I think that with Rosario, he provides that insurance. And the Dodgers, like you said, love their utility guys. That's why they brought a guy on like Edman. So we'll see. I mean, it doesn't excite me. It's not one of the Rays position players that I wanted. I honestly, Kevin, when we got Rosario, my first thought was he's still in the league. Like I didn't even know he was still playing. So that's how low on my list he was. I would have rather gotten a Rosarena, Isaac Paredes. Yandy Diaz is still available, although I don't hear that the Dodgers are in on him. But any one of those guys would have been better, in my opinion, than getting an Amed Rosario. So again, it's one of these. We'll see. It's okay. It's not great, but it's okay.
And somehow Kevin Biggio's still on this team. So I don't know where the Dodgers are at. I thought Tommy Edman would replace Kevin Biggio, and I figured that Amed Rosario was going to be the insurance policy because I'm not entirely sure if Miguel Rojas comes back this season. It sounds like his injury is kind of significant, but I mean, Amed Rosario is just a dude. He won't excite anyone, but he is that platoon bat against left-handed pitching, and he tends to do fairly well against them. He only has 2 home runs on the season, though. So this isn't a move that's going to excite Dodger fans by any means. We basically are bulking up our bench just a little bit, but our bench was so bad that I'm not even excited about this in general. So we've got about 40 minutes till the trade deadline. Dodgers still haven't made a single move today. Ryan Yarbrough was designated for assignment yesterday by the Los Angeles Dodgers. No surprise, in my opinion. He had really fallen off for this team. And honestly, I think when they added Brent Honeywell, he kind of just stole the job. He's been getting the job done very effectively with his screwball. And every time Yarbrough goes out there, he gives up a run or two. He just didn't really have a place on this team anymore.
Yeah, he didn't. And it was like he either was going to be decent or he was going to get absolutely lit up. I mean, he was 4-2 with a 3.74 ERA this year, which isn't terrible, but not good if you're a reliever to have a 3.74 ERA. A whip over 1. But in his last 7 games, 4.5 ERA, last 15 games, almost a 5 ERA. So he just kind of ran its course. He actually was pretty serviceable when the Dodgers picked him up last trade deadline. When he came over last year, I thought, what a crafty move by this team to bring on a guy that maybe nobody even thought of as a possibility and pitched pretty decently. Again, I believe, right, Kevin, he was another guy that wasn't on the postseason roster. So I don't like making trades for players that we can't use in the playoffs, because that's where we need the most help, not the regular season. This team is going to win this division, even though the Padres are making a surge. But you gotta figure that when the Dodgers get a little bit healthier, even if they don't make another significant move, they're going to win this division. That's not the issue. The issue is the playoffs.
Yeah. As we wait for trades to hopefully fall through for the Dodgers, want to get your thoughts, Jake, on the trade deadline in general. Is there one trade or one team that they've done moves that have gotten your attention?
Certainly the Mariners have made some significant moves. They got Randy Arozarena. They got Justin Turner. Did they also, who got Zach Eflin? I can't remember.
Baltimore.
Oh, Baltimore. Oh, yeah. Baltimore actually did pretty well too, actually. But the Mariners are making moves. The Cubs added some pieces, which was kind of strange. With the expanded playoffs, more teams are in the playoff hunt, and so you gotta have to make a decision on what you're going to do. Are you going to buy or sell? The Marlins have kind of made out like bandits. I mean, just they're trading everybody and getting a pretty nice haul back. I mean, that Tanner Scott trade with the Padres, they got 2 or 3 of the Padres' top 5 prospects in their farm system. So the Marlins are doing good for, getting younger and better for years to come. But yeah, I would say the Mariners and the Orioles have done well at this deadline, but no one's really just like crushed it yet, because there are still big names out there that can still be moved. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the first team that comes to mind is Seattle. I think Arozarena is going to be absolutely electric. And Justin Turner basically replaces Ty France, who they DFA'd. They added Yimi Garcia to the bullpen.
Oh, right.
I'm no Yimi fan, but he seems to have found a better career outside of Los Angeles. And they're in a very competitive AL West, while the Astros for once aren't making good trades. So maybe Houston finally doesn't sneak their way into another World Series.
That
Texas.
Yusei Kikuchi trade was terrible, though, I thought.
I don't like Kikuchi to begin with. I would have been furious if the Dodgers had traded for him. So I'm glad that the Astros overpaid for a rental. Other than that, I mean, the NL West, Arizona, they added AJ Puck a few days ago. I think he could be a good long-term fit for that team, a lefty who's a reliever, but could be converted to a starter. They added Josh Bell to replace Christian Walker, who's going on the injured list. And obviously with the Padres adding Tanner Scott, as long as the Padres don't add a front end starter, I can live with them adding Scott, although he's an awesome lefty reliever, and that's definitely a big add for San Diego. But fortunately for us so far, the NL West isn't bulking up like I thought they would, and the Giants are sellers. We didn't even, the other weird one was them giving Jorge Soler back to the Atlanta Braves, and the Atlanta Braves are basically trying to run back their 2021 team. I don't think the Braves have made any moves, though, that really have me shaking my boots unless they had a big name starter. But yeah, they can have Jorge Soler. He seems washed. They can have Luke Jackson. He seems really washed. I'm not, and they added Eddie Rosario back, so they can have those guys.
Didn't they already have Rosario?
Yeah, they picked him up off the waivers a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're a fan of a team like the San Francisco Giants, what are you thinking right now? I mean, just they can't land a free agent to save their lives, and they, were able to piece together what looked like an okay offseason with Snell and Soler and Chapman, but once again, they are mired in mediocrity, and you got to wonder what's going on there. Old friend Farhan Zaidi,
he's so overrated.
Not doing a great job over there in San Francisco. Can't land a top free agent and cannot improve his team at the deadline. And what's weird is that the Giants haven't gone one way or the other, it seems. It's not like they're going out and buying players, and it's not like they're selling any players off either, aside from Jorge Soler and like Alex Cobb. So I don't know what they're doing other than just shedding salary at this point.
See online, so many Giants fans want Farhan fired, and it seems like his time is nearing the end. We've got trade news. Doesn't involve the Dodgers, though. Jeff Passan reporting that the Pittsburgh Pirates are finalizing a deal to acquire Isaiah Kiner-Falefa from the Toronto Blue Jays.
Wait, who got him?
Pittsburgh Pirates.
They also got Brian De La Cruz, so they're stocking up.
They've been the most active team during our show so far. The Pittsburgh Pirates. Go figure. So anyone that came in late, we're taking questions. So if you have questions for us or you want to vent out your frustration, feel free to drop it below in the chat. If you haven't hit that like button yet, feel free to hit that like button as well. I'm trying to see if any moves are coming. Nope. The Dodgers are quiet. We're about halfway through this show now, 30 minutes till the deadline. So I guess I'll just throw out some predictions at this point. I would be shocked if the Dodgers don't add a starting pitcher before this trade deadline is all said and done. The fact that Jack Flaherty is still on the board and the Tigers scratched him yesterday, I have to think that the Dodgers are still really in on Jack Flaherty. The thing that might be holding this deal off, though, is like, what if they want River Ryan? I don't know if I'm comfortable trading River Ryan for a rental straight up.
I mean, yeah, I understand, but it's like, then you're not going to improve the team. And I think even like a River Ryan, it's like the Dodgers have so many good starting pitching prospects. So even if River Ryan turns into all world as a member of the Detroit Tigers, let's say, you kind of just have to live with that. Right. I mean, there are other arms in the system that are good. And we mentioned a lot of them have pitched for this team this year, other than River Ryan. So if it makes sense, if the Dodgers get a proven starter like a Flaherty or even a Skubal, let's say, I know that his name was floated early in the trade deadline talks. It's cooled off. No one's really talking about Skubal right now. Maybe
Right.
that's what they're working on. I don't know. But it would seem to me that would be a huge splash if they could get a Flaherty or a Skubal or a Crochet. And to me, it's like they're going to have to pay high for these guys. They're not going to come cheap.
I would trade River Ryan in a heartbeat for Skubal. I'll go to River Ryan's apartment in LA right now and do all the packing for him.
Right.
I'll drive him to the airport.
You'll sell him down the river.
You name me a prospect you want to go with, you River Ryan, we'll package you together. I will trade anything for Skubal, but for Flaherty, I mean, I am a little more hesitant. I do understand that Flaherty is a very proven starter. I'd have to do a little more digging into how this guy does in the postseason. I don't know if I know he's obviously been on the postseason for the Cardinals, but last season he wasn't very good for the Baltimore Orioles. I think he had an ERA over 5 with that team after being traded to them for the deadline. After the deadline, I know this year he's been obviously a lot better and the velocities there. But I am hesitant because River Ryan does seem like a really, really, really good pitcher. But Robleski, Landon Knack, other guys that they haven't called up yet, yeah, they're all fair game for Flaherty. I'm also teetering back and forth with would I give up River Ryan for Garrett Crochet? I don't know. I think ultimately I would because the upside just is very high with Garrett Crochet and seems like he's a help us win now type of guy. With River Ryan, I don't even know if they would trust him to pitch on this postseason team because they don't tend to go with rookies anymore, albeit or like throwback to Ryan Pepio a year ago where they went with Lance Lynn over Ryan Pepio. So I feel like if River Ryan's pitching out of his mind, they'll still find a way to go with Clayton Kershaw over River Ryan just because.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's just because this is how Dave Roberts operates these days and Andrew Friedman. But we've got Glass now, at least at this moment in time. Who the hell knows if Yamamoto's coming back and what version we get of him? So he's a question mark. Gavin Stone is very unproven, and he's going through some fatigue right now. We don't know where he stands. We've only seen one start out of Clayton Kershaw. So still big question marks there. Walker Buehler is getting lit up like a candle in Oklahoma City. Bobby Miller is someone I wanted to touch upon. I think the Dodgers need to maybe scratch the idea of him being a starter altogether for the rest of the season. What if they converted Bobby Miller into a reliever for this season?
That's not a bad idea. He has the velocity. Are you thinking that Bobby Miller just doesn't have the stamina to go deep into ball games? Is that kind of what your idea is?
Seems like it.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then that's kind of what happened with Eric Gagne, if you remember. Eric Gagne started out as a starter, couldn't really get past the 3rd or 4th inning, and then they were like, let's put you in the bullpen, and we saw how that worked out. So could be that. I wouldn't mind it, but if there is obviously more of a need for starting pitching, which there really is, I don't know if the Dodgers really have the luxury at this point to do something like that, but it's an interesting thought.
BC saying wasting Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman's prime for a bunch of prospects who will probably combine for less career WAR than Ohtani alone.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way.
What the hell happened to Diego Cartaya? Is he just worth nothing now? Like, could he not even get us? I'm not saying I want him, but like, could he not even fetch us a Paul DeJong? Like, if the Dodgers were like, what do you want for DeJong? And they said, we'll take this player. And then the Dodgers counter and say, how about we give you Cartaya for DeJong? Do the White Sox hang up the phone? Like, I don't understand what happened to this guy.
It's another prospect that they never sold high on. And I don't know whether it was they just were kind of wavering or wishy-washy on Will Smith about whether or not he was the Dodgers catcher of the future, but it made sense when they dealt Keibert Ruiz to the Nationals with Josiah Gray for Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. So we know that they can do it. We know that they can sell high on these guys, and that was a great trade. It just so happened that Scherzer ran out of gas, but Trey Turner was great for this team, and Max Scherzer was great during the regular season and that first series against the Giants. So I don't know. It sucks when a guy's value drops so low that you can't really trade him for good stuff anymore. I mean, can you imagine if the Dodgers traded Cartaya for Paul DeJong? I mean, that would have been just so depressing. I don't know. I mean, there's so many of those guys, these position players that don't work out for this team recently. Miguel Vargas, Michael Busch, James Outman is struggling mightily, even though he had a home run the other night in Houston. There's just a ton of these guys that come up. Pages is cooled off, where they either have like hot streaks and they don't pan out, or they never really hit. And so to me, it's like they have all these position players. Why not trade them at the height of their powers to actually get some proven major league talent? I don't understand what the philosophy is there.
25 minutes till the trade deadline. I want to just quickly recap that Astros series. So the big meltdown game was the second game of the series.
I should have won that series.
Oh yeah, easily. So Robleski goes 5 2/3 innings. I believe in the 6th inning, he had given up back-to-back hits to lead off the inning. Then he got out of it with the next 2 outs. And then Dave Roberts decides to pull him in favor of Evan Phillips. At that point, it was a 5-0 game. I know a lot of people were furious with the decision to pull Robleski. I didn't necessarily think it was the wrong move because you're going to Evan Phillips. And when you're a guy that's as established and as proven as Evan Phillips, he should be able to get the 1 out. So I don't know what the hell is happening to Evan Phillips, but he's been an utter train wreck out there. I don't know if it's mechanical. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if it's mental. But I think people, and I'm not a Dave Roberts apologist by any means, but I feel like people were a little too hard on Dave Roberts for that game.
Yes, overall I agree, and in hindsight, you could say, yeah, it probably was the better move to leave Robleski in, given what Phillips did. And I think at the time when I was thinking about it, I was a little worried actually bringing Evan Phillips into a game, which is kind of strange because his entire Dodgers career, it's like I trusted him with my life, but this year he's been human and he has been bad recently. So bringing him into a quote unquote high leverage situation, even though they were up by 5 and he only needed to get 1 out, you figure, come on, Evan, get us 1 out, get us out of this inning. And the whole inning imploded. Ever so often that does happen to Evan Phillips, where it's just out of nowhere, an implosion occurs and you can't stop it. And he can't figure out how to get out of it. But I agree. I think jumping on Dave Roberts for that is a little like, well, it's 6, it's like it could have gone either way. Right. But I felt that with a 5-0 lead and the way that Robleski was going, like let him give up a run first before going to the bullpen would be my only argument against taking him out. But like you said, you figure you bring in a guy you trust and he just doesn't come through.
Aaron Edick asking us, can Gavin Lux keep hitting?
He's been good. Kevin, what do you got to say about that? He has been good, and they moved him up to 3rd in the lineup.
Gavin Lux has been the hottest Dodger the last 10 days or so I can't discredit him. It's like D'Angelo Russell all over again. May have been on the chopping block, and right before the trade deadline decides to start hitting. Can he keep hitting? I don't know, but this is going to be a big test for him in these next 2 games because they're facing the Padres, and the Padres are trying to chase the Dodgers. So this will be, I hate saying this term in the month of July, but these next 2 games against the Padres at Petco Park are going to have a playoff-like atmosphere to it. And I sure as hell hope the Dodgers can at least take one of these 2 games. Getting swept by the Padres would be horrific.
This guy who's a beat reporter for the Marlins for MLB.com says another Marlins trade impending. I don't know what that means, but the Marlins are getting rid of everybody.
Another trade impending.
I think, I guess I was always kind of down the middle when it came to Gavin Lux. Obviously, I was realistic with what I was watching, which hasn't been good all season. But I also was rooting for him because I know that when he's going good and when he is putting it together, he's a really good player. And he can hit, he can run, he's got a little bit of pop. It just hasn't been on display this year. And I was sort of chalking it up to maybe his slow recovery after the knee injury and all of that. And having lost an entire year of playing, giving him more of the benefit of the doubt. It seems like that's what the Dodgers have done with him, is they're going to get, they were planning on giving him a long leash, and it looks like it's paying off at the moment. Can it keep happening? Can he be more consistent? Well, it remains to be seen, but obviously we like what we're seeing right now.
You didn't cite Craig Mish, right? You said a different Marlins
No, it's a
reporter.
different
Yeah, because
Marlins beat reporter.
Craig Mish says, "OMG, another trade coming."
Yes, I
This is
see
what.
that now.
And then Francis Romero is reporting that the Pirates and Astros working on a deal, but nothing done so far.
Pirates and Astros working on a deal. That's interesting, because the Pirates look like they've been kind of buying, and same with the Astros. So I'm not sure what that's going to be.
We'll have it for you if it happens. Rebecca Michelle David, my question: why do you think these rookies aren't hitting? And then she goes on to ask, is it the hitting coach?
I don't know. I mean, there's been so many. The only consistent thing about these rookie hitters is that they're not hitting consistently. And so you have to look at maybe what's the common denominator of all of these rookies, and that they've been learning from Robert Van Scoyoc, which has been one of our biggest gripes with this team over the past few seasons, and certainly my gripe all season long, which is this team just tries to hit too many home runs instead of trying to make contact. It's one of the reasons why I really liked a guy like Yandy Diaz, who, I looked it up, is not a great postseason player. So that goes against my philosophy, but he can make contact, and he's got a short, compact swing, and he can make contact. So that's kind of what I would want on this team. And it seems like these hitters, especially like Kevin Biggio too, where he's staring at pitches either down the middle or taking these big, long looping swings and striking out. And Outman, there's so many holes in his swing. It's unbelievable. Pages, big swing. Vargas, big swing. So I feel like at some point the Dodgers have to come to Jesus about Robert Van Scoyoc and maybe get another hitting coach in there that can change the approach at the plate. You know, let's say in the first 5 innings, maybe they swing for the fences, and then the last 3 to 4 innings, they change their approach to make more contact. I don't know, but something has to change there, I think.
If the Dodgers get bounced early on in the postseason again, we're going to look back on this day and be furious as to why they didn't acquire enough help, because they definitely have holes on this team, and they need another starter. I don't know how they haven't acquired at least some form of starting pitching yet.
Yeah, it's insane. It's the biggest need that this team has. By the way, the Marlins trade was the Mets acquiring reliever Huascar Brazaban.
I don't want anyone with the last name Brazaban near the Dodgers.
Yeah, is that Yensi's cousin or brother?
Yeah, that last name's been banned for life because of Yensi. But
been Brazaban.
So yeah, that's part one. Part two is, yeah, if they suck again in the postseason, they have to have the realization that Van Scoyoc isn't it, because I do feel like he is kind of a common denominator. Pages is a rookie, but he's really fallen off. He doesn't even have a WRC plus above 100. Miguel Vargas, he never looked right under the Dodgers major league roster. Just most of these rookies we call up. James Outman had a fantastic rookie season, but he's having the ultimate sophomore slump, and I don't know why they haven't been able to figure out his strikeout issues, but we'll see what happens. Oh, shit. What? This is a big trade. Baltimore Orioles finalizing a deal to acquire Eloy Jimenez from the Chicago White Sox.
Wow.
So
that's a name that I hadn't even heard was even on the block.
So now that he's going to the Orioles, he's just never going to get hurt, right? This is how it works.
Right, exactly. Only hurt on the White Sox.
Eloy Jimenez was someone that I did want the Dodgers to go after like a year ago, but then he was hurt and he doesn't really play good defense. I don't even know what role Eloy will have on Baltimore, but He has potential, but he's no Luis Robert. But yeah, White Sox continue to sell off, and crickets from the Dodgers. We're about 15 minutes away.
Also, crickets from the Phillies too. You thought that maybe they would be a little bit more aggressive, but they have a great team already. So I don't know. Brutal, man. I mean, it's just I hope something happens in 20 minutes because Jesus Christ, it was like we have been saying, starting pitching is the biggest need of this team. It is always the biggest need of this team when it comes to October because their starting rotation is just perpetually in shambles. Then they get to the postseason and they don't have anybody left, and it's like, all right, our season rests on the on Lance Lynn's arm. Like that should not happen to this franchise.
It's starting to feel like Jack Flaherty is the headliner in this. Like the deadline isn't concluded. The deadline hasn't concluded until Jack Flaherty gets traded.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would be really surprised if Detroit holds on to Flaherty. Like what reason do they have to keep him other than a compensation qualifying offer pick? I'm just speechless right now. Like what do we have to give up for Jack Flaherty? This is freaking annoying.
Yeah.
Trade Robleski, trade Knack, trade whoever, trade Rushing, Cartaya. Like, come on, Dodgers. This is insane.
Yeah. Mark Feinstein says, never say never until the deadline is passed, but it appears that the Rays will not be trading Yandy Diaz today.
That's fine with me because he wasn't coming to the Dodgers anyways, and I don't need these competitors to get better.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, boy.
Seeing if there's anything else that's
if we don't get anybody and we find out that the Dodgers didn't want to give up prospects, man, that's going to be brutal.
This is where it gets interesting. We're down to the final stretch now. This is the final quarter. What the hell is going to happen?
I mean, shit, if AJ Preller is able to rebuild his farm system every single year, don't you think we could? Like, what is going on? Why don't we just get rid of these guys? I mean, shit, I know that's such an irrational, emotional fan take on the deadline, but I'm just like, I cannot take another October of this shit.
Yeah, it would be, it's pointless to punt until the offseason to try to get these trades done. We'll just see what happens, I guess. And if they don't do anything, then I'll go off. I'm gonna keep my composure for now, but I'm a little frustrated at the moment. Like we don't have the starting pitching to survive, so
we don't have the roster to survive right now.
Wake the hell up, Freeman.
There's too many holes on this team. There's too many question marks. Got to do something. Have to get someone. How do you not get a starting pitcher? How do you not do that? I mean, the reliever we got has what, a 4.45 ERA or something like that.
Yeah,
we didn't even get an elite reliever.
I'm so sick of the Dodgers being connected to everyone and then they end up with nothing.
Nothing.
Bunch of pussies. Dennis Gonzalez, welcome, Dennis. If the team fails to get to the World Series this year, do you think ownership calls Ohtani's bluff and parts ways with Friedman? I don't think so.
No.
The reason is because Friedman did a lot this offseason. He can't control the amount of injuries. But I will say that there will be a head that's chopped off like Marie Antoinette, throwing it to the Paris Olympics that are going on. Dave Roberts will be the fall guy if this team chokes once again. This time, I mean it. I will bet.
You really think that? Well, I don't think that Dave Roberts is on the chopping block as much as you think he is, because you got to look at it from year to year. Like the last postseason, I don't. Again, I said a lot of things because I was so overly emotional and just angry. So I may have said something like this, but I don't believe I did, which is it wasn't entirely Dave Roberts' fault. You know, it was more that the players just did not show up when they needed to. They didn't score enough runs and they didn't pitch well. You can't really blame that on Dave Roberts. Now, if he does like a Dave Roberts special where, the 2019 NLDS or even the 2018 World Series, like if he has one of those moments, then yeah, I would say it's time to go. But I think it's more on building a roster that can perform in the playoffs has been the Rubik's Cube of this team. It's just they cannot figure out the right mix of guys to get them to another World Series at this point.
At some point, it has to come down to preparation, and I just don't understand the lack of being prepared. Like Kershaw was awful in Game 1, but the bats didn't show up, and we see the Diamondbacks so much in the regular season. We see the Padres so much in the regular season, and finally, when it counts, they can't hit. It's something gives, but again, it's another issue. I don't even know who Tanner Banks is.
Yeah, I know. I was just reading that. I was like, who's Tanner Banks?
He's going to the Phillies. Congrats. Not Tanner Scott. Tanner Banks.
Carlton's brother.
10 minutes. 10 freaking minutes. Do we have any other questions? Don't see anything. You know who didn't make any moves other than giving up Carlos Estevez? The Angels.
Yeah. What's going on there? They had so many players to trade.
Such a disgusting franchise. And we could have really used a Luis Rengifo, but the fact that they're little bitches and they don't want to ever help the Dodgers, like I hope Artie loses the Angels so bad.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I mean, he just needs to go so that franchise can, figure it out and without him, because he's been just horrible for them. I don't know why they haven't dealt any of these players that they have. Also, another team that hasn't really done much is the Yankees. They got Jazz Chisholm and Mark Leiter, but that's it. I don't know what they're doing either.
Sounds like a more exciting deadline than the Dodgers, though. Like, if we had walked away with Jazz Chisholm, I think I'd be a little more fired up than what we're doing right now. God.
Guess what, Kevin? You're in luck, because I just got a notification that Michael Kopech will be available in the Dodgers dugout at approximately 3:10 p.m. for media. So
wonderful.
You can tune into that.
How exciting. Michael Kopech speaking to the media is going to help us win games.
God.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I'm refreshing my feeds.
Me too.
It sounds like Garrett Crochet is staying put. But you never know, I guess.
I mean, we've seen it where like the deadline will pass, right? 3 p.m. will come, and then trades that were kind of in agreement before then are then reported, and the fact that they're reported after the deadline does not mean that they were completed after the deadline. It's just, I think, when these beat reporters find out about these trades is kind of how it happens.
Yeah, I mean, we still have hope. I remember last year the one that just takes the wind out of your sails is when they start to tweet like so and so will not be moved at the trade deadline. I think that happened.
I know. I'm just waiting for those.
Fuck me. Right on brand. Ken Rosenthal reports Garrett Crochet will not be traded.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It felt like there was a lot of writing on the wall with that, because there was that weird report about him needing a contract extension. Otherwise, he didn't want to be traded to, be traded if he didn't get a contract extension and all of that. And just kind of weird behavior from a guy that is only now having a great season. It's not like he's had a great track record of being a great pitcher. This has pretty much been his only good year so far. So I'm not too shocked that he's not moved.
I'm not shocked either.
Also, I really resent the people that say, the Dodgers' biggest deadline acquisition is getting Max Muncy and Yamamoto and Mookie Betts back. Like that's a big trade deadline. Shut up. Like we already had those players. What happened?
What a fucking Dodger move.
What happened? What did we do?
We're acquiring Kevin Kiermaier from the Toronto Blue Jays.
No, we're not. Are you kidding me?
That is such a Dodger move.
No.
There's your center fielder, guys, on his last hurrah.
Are you serious? That guy, what? Kevin Kiermaier? How old is he?
Old enough to say this is his last season.
He's 34. He's hitting 195 this year. He's got a 546 OPS. We
are hilarious. This team is freaking hilarious. So I'm gonna post this to our
who tweeted that out?
Robert Murray.
That guy's really good, actually. He's kind of he's up there with the Jeff Passons of the world.
Yeah, he's on it.
Also, fan-sided.
Yes, and he seems to have some Dodgers scoops. So
this is Yarbrough is going to the Blue Jays.
So Kevin Kiermaier to the Dodgers for Ryan Yarbrough. Okay.
Oh my God.
Well, we needed a center fielder.
Ugh, disgusting. Just a disgusting trade. Oh, I hate it.
People are saying Flaherty to the Dodgers.
Who?
I don't know. Help me out here.
Please save me. Save me.
Unless they're trolling. Help me out. I'm literally Mitch McConnell frozen right now because I can't seem to type Kevin Kiermaier to the Dodgers for Ryan Yarbrough by Robert Murray. Okay, here we go. So let me see something. I'm trying to figure this out. Okay. So there's that. I don't know if this is true, but the chat is blowing up that Jack Flaherty has been traded.
Oh, passing Jack Flaherty to the Dodgers.
There it is. Yes.
Jeff Passan, boom. Thank God we got someone.
Let's go. Jack Flaherty is a Dodger. He's coming home. We sweat it down to the final 5 minutes. We have fucking got our guy.
Christ, dude.
That was a thrill. Going from Kevin Kiermaier, Jack Flaherty.
257.
257. Wow. Okay, so we got to see the return, obviously, but
he's coming home.
We know Jack Flaherty is awesome. We know he's a baller. Game 2, Game 3 starter, depending on how things shape up with our rotation. But this is a stud. Good for the Dodgers, showing their tenacity, getting the trade done. Jack Flaherty added to the rotation. Big move. He can give them 6 to 7 innings easily. He strikes people out. Let's go.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of a great comeback story for him because he came into the league with the Cardinals, early 20s, in his career, and kind of burst onto the scene in 2019. He was 11-8 with a 2.75 ERA. And you thought, okay, this guy's going to be like an all-time ace for them. And then it just kind of fell off for him after that. He got injured a lot, struggled to come back. When he did, he didn't pitch well, had ERAs over 4 and over 5 over the last few years. Pitched in Baltimore last year, had a 6.75 ERA, only pitched in 9 games. And then this year, he's turned it around with the Tigers, 7-5 with a 2.95 ERA. He's pitched over 100 innings so far. So it sounds like he's back. He's back to being the Jack Flaherty that we all kind of thought when he came into the league.
Absolutely. So great move. I don't know what's been reported out there in the last couple minutes. I've just been trying to update the social media and all this shit, but I want to see what the Dodgers gave up. That's my biggest question mark right now. And I don't even know what people are posting in the YouTube chat. Maybe they've already updated us, but this is a good deadline. Like at a minimum, I got to give it a solid B. Bob Nightingale says that the Dodgers were heavily in talks with White Sox starter Garrett Crochet, but they had to pivot to Jack Flaherty.
Mm-hmm.
So screw Crochet, screw the White Sox.
Can I just say something? I I was never that big on Crochet anyway. I just didn't. I didn't trust it as much.
Right.
I just felt like Jack Flaherty, if he could be healthy, we know he can be a good pitcher, and he's been a really good pitcher this year. And then also, like we were talking about all the stuff about the contract extension with Crochet, I was just like, dude, get over yourself. Like I didn't like that attitude.
I think he's an asshole, but I would have gladly taken Garrett Crochet. Big question mark with the innings thing, but like I think he's really good. So I'm happy either way. Like if we had not gotten so they're saying Theron Lirio, I cannot pronounce his name. The catcher Theron Liranzo, who's like third behind Rushing and Cartaya. This is a good guy to sell. So this is kind of what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Sell high on these motherfucking catchers, which they're doing right now, and Trey Sweeney.
Oh wow, who's saying that?
The
Murray?
chat.
Oh,
But all of them are. So I'm sure it's been reported.
yeah. Murray tweeted. They run Lorenzo and Trey Sweeney.
So in the last second, the Rays got Dylan Carlson, who I know the Dodgers liked before. Tampa Bay Rays, or Luis Garcia goes from the Angels to the Red Sox. So, yeah, so it looks like it's just straight up Lorenzo and Sweeney for Flaherty. That's a fucking steal, man. If that's it, like we didn't give up shit. We get to keep Robleski. We get to keep Knack. We get to keep all our starters.
Yep.
How's that possible? Are the Tigers on drugs? Did they feel bad for screwing us over last year with the Erod thing? I thought for sure Robleski would have had to be in this deal. Like he's a major league ready starter. He's good. Landon Knack's a major league ready starter.
And they got two position players.
And I mean, no disrespect to Trey Sweeney, but he's not even lighting it up in AAA.
And we just got Trey Sweeney, didn't we? What was the trade? Was it the Ferguson trade or
it was the Ferguson trade who also got traded.
Yeah.
So it's like the Dodgers and Yankees were just helping each other out and getting assets.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It was crazy. This is good shit.
Kevin Kiermaier, LOL.
I'm happy.
That's a good defensive center fielder at the very least. He can't hit anymore, but we know how good he is defensively. He's
basically James Outman with no power upside.
Yeah. He can run into one.
That's our Tampa Bay. That's our Tampa Bay Ray. Right there. We wanted a Rosario, but we got Kiermaier, who was in that 2020 World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Jamison Tyon stays. Okay, so basically,
I'm wondering if there are any other.
Justin Yamas says it was Victor Gonzalez and Vivas for Trey Sweeney.
Oh, okay.
Which
I thought it was either Ferguson or Victor Gonzalez.
So we basically traded Victor Gonzalez and Yorva Vivas, who are nobodies and probably won't be anybody's. I don't even know Victor. I think Victor Gonzalez got DFA'd by the Yankees. So we traded two scrubs for Trey Sweeney. And then we flipped Trey Sweeney because we already got Alex Freeland, who's going to be an awesome shortstop in our system. So we didn't need Trey Sweeney. And then we get rid of Lorenzo, who I can't even pronounce his name, but he's behind the catching depth board of Rushing and Cartaya anyways. And we get a guy that's going to help us win now.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fleece right there. Cool.
Yeah. But yeah.
All right. So let's see what's going on in the chat. If anyone has questions for us, feel free to drop them below. We'll hang out for another 10 minutes or so just to make sure we didn't miss anything. But yeah. So let's see. To recap, we've got Jack Flaherty coming to the Dodgers. And I guess that's the trade. Everyone's saying that's it. Okay. We've got Kevin Kiermaier. We needed an outfielder.
Like that's it, as in no more moves.
In terms of that trade, that's it. It's just Sweeney and Lorenzo for Flaherty. No one's saying there's anything else involved. So we get to keep River Ryan. We get to keep Robleski. We get to keep Knack. Those are all starters. We add Flaherty. We're adding Kevin Kiermaier, who can play center field. We added Edman, who can be a utility guy if he comes back. We've got Amed Rosario, who's a platoon guy and replaces Nick Amed at least, and maybe Miguel Rojas if he's out for a while. And yeah, we added Kopech to the bullpen, and so we added what, five guys?
I knew this was going to happen. Remember, I said at the beginning, we're going to spend the entire hour shitting on him and on Friedman and everyone, and then we're going to get something at the last second.
Sounds like, yeah. So we got to make some cuts. We added a lot of major league guys. So we got Andy Pajes being asked about from MPAC 8_24.
Platoon, I think.
I agree. So
Kevin Kiermaier is a left-handed batter.
Yes. Yeah. So Pajes gets thrown into the platoon role. Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. Justin Yama. So how did we give up less for a starter than San Diego did for a reliever? It's a really good point.
Because that's how San Diego, that's what they do.
I feel like they could have given that up for Flaherty. I don't know what the hell they were on. Rebecca Michelle David, I give it a B+. I think that's where I'm at. Not an A. It's not an A deadline where they blew my socks off, but it's definitely a B to B+. Like, we addressed the needs. We got a starter. We got an outfielder. Ivy, what does this mean for Outman? He probably will get demoted to AAA.
Yeah. Overall, we got the starting pitcher. The rest of what we got, who knows? I mean, who knows, right? Like, that's kind of how I feel. I wish that we had gotten a better bat at the deadline. That was the one thing that I was kind of hoping that they would do, is just get a better bat than Rosario, Edman, or Kiermaier. And those guys, Edman, I think has the best upside of those three if he returns and whatever we get when he comes back. But that's the one thing I was like, yeah, we really did need a bat. We needed a corner, either a center, like a good hitting center fielder, or a corner infielder, third baseman. I wish that we had done that. And Jack Flaherty is great. So I hope he continues to be great. And I think him coming back home to Los Angeles is a huge thing for any player when they get to come back home to their homegrown team. It's just a really, really cool moment for him. And it was one of the guys that I really wanted. So that's great. But I don't know. How do you feel about the rest? I mean, yes, we got pieces, Kevin, but did we get the right ones is the question.
We needed one starting pitcher that could be trusted to pitch in the playoffs. They got that. We needed some bench pieces because Biggio and Amed and Vargas, who they got rid of, were a bunch of scrubs. They upgraded with they upgraded there. The one thing I wanted them to add was an outfielder that I felt we could trust to start every day. The San Francisco Giants are such a weird team. I'll get in that in a second. But yeah, Kevin Kiermaier does not scream like awesome. He's going to start for us. Like, that's our guy. Jason Hayward's still going to have a lot of at-bats probably. That doesn't excite me. Our team is going to be inconsistent on offense, but hopefully the pitching keeps us together. But yeah, we need Mookie back. Hopefully Muncy comes back, but I don't know. I think I would have liked one big bat, but I guess we can't get it all. So apparently the San Francisco Giants are acquiring Mark Canha from the Detroit Tigers.
The Giants are getting Canha.
The team that I thought was selling. Makes literally no sense. So Mark Canha goes to the Giants. Farhan's an idiot. I don't get that. But anyways, yeah. So let me see what we got here. So I guess Kevin Kiermaier, yeah. Hopefully Kevin Kiermaier can hit because God, this is such a Dodger that they're going to start him because of his defense, but he needs to be able to hit. So our outfield, I guess, would be Teoscar, obviously. Kiermaier and Pages are the platoon, and then Hayward and Edman are a platoon.
Edman can also play third.
Edman can play third. Rosario will play. He'll probably platoon with Lux.
You know, they actually put Rosario. The Rays actually put Rosario out in right field or in the outfield. So there's that option too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. So he can probably play some outfield as well. I don't know if the Dodgers are done. I feel like we're done, but we can wait it out 5 more minutes. Passan, he's the winner. He broke the Flaherty trade.
He did. No other moves coming for the Dodgers per source. That's from Juan Toribio.
Oh, well, he doesn't count.
I mean, he's kind of plugged in.
I think we're done, but I mean, you never know, I guess. I think the deadline's over. Crickets out there.
Yeah, I think it is over.
All right. Well, that is probably going to conclude our show. So give me your final thoughts, Jake.
I just hope these guys work out. I mean, they you know, again, it's like it's this minus the Jack Flaherty move, which they didn't have last year, right? As sort of like a big trade that they made. It just feels like another like not a repeat of last year's deadline, but kind of similar vibe. Obviously Edman has the upside that I hope is there. That's the confidence that I'm starting to have in a Tommy Edman when he returns. But the rest of these guys, it just seems like there's a lot of hope that they're going to be able to contribute. And I don't have a lot of confidence in Rosario or Kiermaier. I hope Kopech proves me wrong because he plays for the Dodgers, and I want all of these players that I've been shitting on to prove me wrong. But it just, you know, there is a lot that has to go right for this team, and not just from the trade acquisitions that they made, but all of the guys coming back from injury to provide enough thump and enough support to make a deep playoff run. And I just hope that this was enough.
So Dylan Floro just got traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks, old friend. That was the last trade I just saw. But all right, so the Dodgers, let's see what we got. So we've got, I'm trying to think who the odd man out would be. So our rotation right now is Glasnow, Flaherty, River Ryan, Gavin Stone, and Kershaw. Can't believe I almost forgot him. Then hopefully Yamamoto comes back at a certain point. Walker Buehler and Bobby Miller are down in AAA. So we got the 5 starters there. Brett Honeywell's in the bullpen. Evan Phillips, Blake Trinan, Alex Vesia, Daniel Hudson, Michael Kopech, Anthony Banda, Joe Kelly, and Robleski's on the team. So we got a lot of pitchers, and Grove, Gratterall, and Brazier could all be activated at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So it almost feels like certain guys that we like, they're going to have to kick them off the team.
You know, it was weird that the Rockies didn't make any moves.
Yeah, they have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
Vister Vid, did we sign Jack Flaherty? We did. We traded for Jack Flaherty. Vister Vid. He is a Los Angeles Dodger.
We didn't sign him, but we traded for him.
All right. Well, that's going to, I think, conclude this episode. This was a trade deadline special. You got to witness us go through the highs and lows And thankfully, we ended on a high note for once.
Oh, thank
So-
God we got a starting pitcher. Just thank God. Oh, thank God. That's all I have to say.
All right. Well, that's the Incline Dodgers podcast. We're going to sign off now. Hit that like and subscribe button while you're here. And if you're listening after the fact, drop a comment below. Let us know what grade you'd give the Dodgers